we'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Design Review Board to order. John, if you do a quick roll call for us, please.
Yes, for today, Carrie did have a conflict today with one of her classes, and Carl is also attending a conference in town. And so those two won't be in today, but the other four, or excuse me, the remaining five are here today.
Okay, thank you, John. I guess we'll move to the first item of business, the approval of minutes of the April 25th, 2019 DRB meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review these?
Yes, and I have a correction. Under new business public hearing items, it does say that the application was filed by Jones Gill & Maroons on behalf of Heather Smith, which is inaccurate. That should be Monty Shadwick. I believe that was
Oh, okay.
in regards to Blue Sky, which I was not here for, but so could get that corrected.
Yeah, we will make that correction for you.
Actually, yeah, that whole first paragraph, because it talks about being 148 South Santa Fe, and that's the,
Yeah, so that's the wrong address too. And probably the wrong legal description. Not
okay.
sure what that
paragraph
would be,
probably
but
needs, got lifted or,
yeah, it got copied over from this week's agenda, I think.
Sure. And staff did notice on page 2, at the very bottom of the paragraph, it said Mr. Gillum, where that's actually Mr. Shadwick, at that final paragraph on page 2, and we'll make that correction.
It also, yeah, on paragraph 2 as well, John, Monty Gillum.
Okay, we do have that. And we'll note that correction.
I don't see any other items, you guys?
So
Then I
s-
would-
do we want to then, staff, make the corrections and look at these a second time, or do you want us to approve them with corrections now?
You could approve those with the corrections noted, and we'll adjust those for our records.
Okay, then I would be willing to hear a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes with the corrected items as presented.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes with the corrections in paragraph 3.1 and on page 2, the second paragraph and the final paragraph. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The minutes are approved with corrections. All right. And move on to new business, item 3.1. John, if you'd read that for us, please.
And prior to John reading that, I am going to recuse myself, but will be presenting today on that item.
And I'll be recusing myself as well, so I'll step out.
If you would, Gary, please. This is application CC 19-6, which is requesting the approval of a certificate of compatibility to allow the renovation of the existing ground floor storefront on the building located at 148 South Santa Fe. This shows where it's located. It's in the 100 block of South Santa Fe. It's next door to the Art Center. Cinema to the north is actually owned by the same person, Heather Smith, and it's a two-story commercial structure that's comprised of brick. If we can go to that one. This slide is from 1985, and it's not recognizable, but the 148 is the one on the right. And this brick building was originally built in 1911 for the J.W. Jenkins and Sons Music Company, and they operated there through the 1960s. The property has also been the location for the Bolinwood Insurance Agency, who was a tenant from the 1970s to the 1990s. The ground floor storefront was remodeled in 1964, and we believe the half timbering and mansard roof were applied to the structure at that time. But in 1998, Jim Mays rehabilitated the front exterior, took off the mansard roof cover and stucco and the half timbering, and redid the ground floor storefront display windows. And this is a 2005 photograph, but it does show the improvements that were made in 1998. A new cornice was added to the building. 4 windows were added to the front of the building there. And there is, and we'll see in a closer view, a storefront system that was put in between the 2 showcases on either side of the entrance to the building in 1998. We can go on to the next slide. This shows the current configuration on that. The awning has changed, but it's the same general configuration. The showcases on either side are still the same. And we can go forward. And this is just showing existing conditions today with the 2x2 ceramic tile, the storefront from 1998. The bookcases and showcases themselves are roughly in the same footprint and appearance as they were in 1998, so there's been no change to those, though they are getting a bit more weathered and tired over time. I do have an area in here that was extending back in, was the first vestibule. This is the storefront that bumped out and came forward. You'll see in another slide where the original doorway was, but this is the current doorway. And the side cases on each side maintain their footprint. Also on the right-hand side is a alcove and a stair to the second floor. And we can go ahead one more. This shows the proposed renovation changes that's proposed by the applicant and her architect. Basically, the ceramic tile in the approach here is going to be replaced. The canopy is going to remain in its original condition. The storefronts that are in the center there are going to be taken out and salvaged for reuse. And the bookcases on either side are going to be removed as part of the application. And then there is some marble tile that's around the doorway going up to the second floor that's going to also be changed out. So we can go forward. And this shows the original footprint of the bookcases. These have been turned into closets where they were display cases over time, but they're virtually unused. And this shows basically what's going to be happening is the storefront in this location is going to remain in that same location. And we can go forward. And new storefronts are going to be placed in aligning with the existing storefront. That's going to be reinstated, and this is going to be a flush system across the front of the building. The tile on the approach here is going to be replaced, and there is going to be some work also on the alcove appearance-wise, but that's going to take it back to more of a modern appearance, but it's definitely going to be something that will probably hark back to the history as well. We can go one more slide, and this shows that a wainscot is going to be reapplied to the new portions of the storefront to mimic and recall the marble tile storefront system that is there right now today. So. In looking at the proposed changes there, it appears that it's going to fall in with our design guidelines. This application proposes to remove an older storefront element and restore a flush aluminum glass system, which is more functional and attractive in the downtown. The replacement is going to maintain the transparent character of the display windows while complementing the historic features and openings. And under findings, staff believes that the proposed storefront design will maintain the characteristics of typical storefronts including the transparent character of the display windows. The building design will include facade materials that are similar in appearance to those on traditional storefronts, and the storefront renovation is going to have design materials and proportions that are typical of similar structures of the same period, in this case on either side. And the street level entrance is designed to be more transparent and pedestrian friendly. So your alternatives today would be to approve the application upon staff's suggested findings. If you choose, you could approve that subject to any conditions identified by board members. You could postpone the case if you feel you would require some additional information. In the case of now, there is an appeal process. Under staff's recommendation, we would recommend option number 2, that any significant changes to the design materials approved by the design board will be presented to the board's administrative staffs if there are any significant changes. So at this point, I would be glad to answer any questions of staff, and then assist Ms. Gillum here also.
Thank you, John. Does anyone have any questions of staff?
Is it just going to be all glass? Under the glass, what material is being used? Did I miss that?
Go ahead.
Maggie Gillum, Jones Gillum Rents Architects. So what you're seeing here is, this is all glass. This is existing. The storefront that is there now, we are planning to reuse. It's in fairly good shape, fairly modern looking. So we are going to add the storefront on either side of it to match what is there existing, which is a dark bronze type of storefront. Below there is about 1.8 feet of a wainscot, which we are going to tile. So I brought the tile with me today to show you what we're going to be using. This middle one is what we're going to use on the wainscot. It's very, very similar to the stone that exists on the bottom here on either side, as well as the stone sill that sits up here. Very similar in color. We're also replacing the tile approach to the building. Right now, they're little 2x2 red squares, pretty dated looking. So we're going to pull that up and then add new tile, and we're going to use the lighter colored tile at that approach there. And you guys want to see that up close?
Sure. You said this middle one comes closer to matching
It comes very
those.
close to matching this, the stone that's already there. I'm not sure if it's, I'm assuming it's a terracotta, but it might be a cast stone of some kind. And then also in this little alcove here, she's Heather Smith, who her and her husband actually live upstairs. They own the building. That's their door to get up to their apartments. So all of that is that marble stone tile right now. So we're going to pull all of that out, and then we'll be installing that new tile all around that entryway there.
Oh, okay.
Basically, right now, it's the way that vestibule and that storefront is set up. It's ideal for, like, say, a jewelry shop. However, the new tenants moving in are, their vision is to use that space, their waiting area, as a gallery like they kind of do now. So they want the public to be able to walk by and really see the things that they're showcasing in there.
Okay. You said I'm seeing that's an 1.5 foot and a half, that wainscot will be in that,
This one here?
yeah, that's. gonna
Yeah,
be
it's about 1.8
foot-
feet tall.
1'8".
Mm-hmm.
What is the existing? Is that 2 feet?
The existing's pretty tall. It's almost, like waist height or so, chest,
Is that
waist height.
tall? Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty tall. It makes it very closed off in there. It's very hard to see back in there and what's happening. Plus, it's dated, very
That'd be
dated.
just
looking.
slightly higher than that existing stone that you're matching it to, isn't it, on the corners? It'll just be slightly.
Yeah, I'm guessing that stone right there is maybe 1 foot and 2 or 4 inches tall, yeah.
But that'll still give it a nice continuous look on it.
Right. The other item that's not listed there that we've kind of thrown back and forth with the owner and the tenant is the idea of actually having a new aluminum door installed here that is a colored door. You've seen, like, for example, Old Chicago has colored aluminum doors. They're red. So they're kind of debating if they want to do that and what color. So we didn't bring any samples here to show you, but it might be something we have to bring back later if that's the route they choose to go.
But you're not going to use the colored door right now, are you?
Well, I'd hate to tell you we're going to do this color or that color because they're not sure yet what color. It will be tied into their logo, which is like a wine or a burgundy and or like a dusty blue. So it'll probably be one of the two colors, but it's all going to depend on what colors are available. And if they can't find something that matches real well, they probably won't, so.
So they'll go with that existing, that kind of a bronze.
Yeah, so as it is now, that's the direction we're gonna go, is to reuse that door, but possibly coming back in the future with a little bit of a update.
Okay. I was trying to visualize, I thought that's gonna look, so that tile, that'll all flow together and right over into that alcove for the other doorway, and it'll all kind of blend, won't it?
Well, and this actually here, this is a column. It's a concrete column that's painted red.
Oh,
So
it is?
So we're gonna paint that to actually match the tile, so it won't be red anymore. But that does have to stay. So the alcove will still be separate from this piece of it.
Is that why there's a gap in the canopy?
Yeah, I don't know what that's about. I'm not sure. Maybe. And the
wondering
canopy
about
is
that.
staying as it is for now.
Okay. Okay. Does anybody have any questions of the applicant? No? No question. Anything else you want to add?
Oh, it's pretty cut and dry.
I think so too.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll bring it back to the board for discussion. Is there any discussion on?
No, I think it's pretty simple and clear.
Okay.
It's one comment, nice style.
Yeah.
I like the way it's going to look. So John, if that does come back to us, can that be one of the significant changes if we go with option 2, that the door color could just come back to staff? Or would it have to come back to the board?
It depends how the board feels the feature, whether it be something that's really significant in the appearance change or not. We'd be glad to bring that back to you as a supplemental meeting.
Okay.
But we don't want to prevent work going forward on that. But it does appear that that might be a later decision. So if that does take place, they can certainly alert staff and we can schedule at the next meeting.
Or if you want to make it part of
I
your
would-
motion to delegate that to staff, then you should make
That's-
that part of your motion to just
That's
say.
what I would prefer to
if
do, that
there's-
if if it's just going to be the door color change, to bring that to staff unless staff really thinks it's something that needs to come to the board.
No, we'd be glad to coordinate that.
Okay. So when we make a motion, we could include that any significant changes, with the exception of the door color, that the door color, once it's determined, could be determined, delegated to staff.
Yes, that would cover it.
Okay. Because I'm assuming there's probably going to be a sign and probably a canopy color change eventually, maybe. If that canopy doesn't match their logo. I know if it was me, I'd want it all to, a little OCD though.
Yeah, the reason we're not right now looking to take the canopy down is we're actually, when we get in there and start doing some demo, we want to actually see what's behind that canopy.
Right.
And kind of tackle it at that point, because she's not entirely sure if there's a transom there still, a glass transom, or if someone's just put plywood over it, or if there's, something there that's maybe worth saving or rehabbing. So she's going to wait until we kind of get to that point. So
Okay.
as of right now, the canopy just stays.
Good. All right. Well, if there's no more discussion, do we have Is there any more?
No.
Okay. Then I would be willing to entertain a motion, might be a long worded.
I move that we approve the application as is. Any changes to the color of the door, we can let staff handle that in the future. Was that short and sweet enough for you?
Okay, I can second it.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the application with the following conditions, that if there's any significant changes to the design or materials, be presented to the board staff, specifically the door color, if it changes, that can be something delegated to staff. And a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries 3-0.
We request a little break here so we can get everybody back to the dais.
Yes.
I said we were probably eavesdropping. Yes.
As soon as I get back up.
Okay.
There's no representation here.
I believe we could go ahead and move forward.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to item 3.2. John, I noticed there is no one here to present 3.2. Do we want to, and from reading the materials about the applicant might need more time to submit?
That's correct. In this case, the real estate agent helping the applicant in this case has been coordinating additional information we've been requesting. And we did receive the application on March 28th and sent them a letter on April 1st with that long list of questions you saw in that letter attachment. And I've been working with them to try and fill in the gaps with that, with the specs on those items. But they did today let us know that they would rather just this be heard at the next regular meeting of the DRB and not be heard today.
Okay.
So, and there was probably some additional background my zoning administrator may want to add to that.
Okay. I did read that they, where did I read that? That the applicant was wanting the approval before they chose the seating design. Are they going to provide some sort of design on that? Are you aware?
We're not aware of any seating change at this point. We're looking at the drawings that have been submitted preliminary to us and working with those totals. But it's not unusual for a project like that to be reconfigured slightly as that goes along. So,
One of our discussions that we've had with the applicant's representative is just that the role of the design review board in this process is to look at the aesthetics, the design, the materials, and all of the outdoor dining area, and that you can't really carry out that function if we don't have sufficient detail of those items. And so that has resonated with the applicant, and for that reason, they indicated to us that they would prefer option 3. And so we informed the applicant's representative that we would report to the board that the request would be to postpone consideration of this application in order to obtain additional information, and that it be postponed to your May 23rd regular meeting.
Okay.
And our
Well, then-
goal is still to provide you with the information that you need to make an aesthetic judgment about what's being proposed. The other thing that's different about this is the ordinance that was passed allows for these dining areas both on sidewalks and on plazas, and this one is being proposed on a plaza instead of a front sidewalk, so there's a little bit different elements involved in the ones that we've had to date, which are on a front sidewalk.
Yeah, this would be the first plaza one that we've
Yes,
looked at.
this is the first one that's been proposed on a plaza.
Is there a limit on the size that, on the plaza?
Well, and we're not sure that was, it's staff's belief that the 200 square foot limitation, was based on not trying to monopolize or overwhelm the sidewalk area.
Right.
But the difference is that plazas are much bigger than sidewalks. So perhaps in hindsight, if we were doing this over, or we may still propose such an amendment, that there probably should be a different standard if you're on a plaza as far as square footage than there would be on a sidewalk. You are in a position to recommend on any case whether you think the dining area is too large or out of proportion or any of those things. And so the request is for an area larger than 200 square feet, but it is a discretionary judgment for the board as to whether they think it's proportional and fits the site. And so just as a reference, the new sidewalks on Santa Fe are going to be 16 to 17 feet wide. This particular plaza is 50 feet wide. So if you can't really have an apples to apples comparison between a plaza and a sidewalk in terms of the impacts. So we will provide much more detail for you at the May 23rd meeting, but the request from the applicant's representative is that they would like additional time to pull those details together so you have information you need to look at the aesthetics of how this would be laid out.
I would also be interested, and may not be able to know by then, but if we have different standards or requirements for plaza, though, is there going to be a limit on the number of restaurants that could be using? So if this, say, would go through at 600 square feet, can every business along that plaza take up 600 square feet and effectively take out the plaza?
Yeah, and that, again, is going to be a judgment as it goes along. We've already had, and some of you may or may not be aware, we have a ongoing working group on a downtown arts and entertainment ordinance, and we have like 36, 38 members on our steering committee. And one of the things that we've discussed and are discussing is that sometimes there is a potential conflict between, we'll say, a private control and use of space within a plaza versus preserving it for full public use. And again, that's going to be something that this board will have to take into account as you look at these and evaluate them on a case-by-case basis. But in that regard, there's some advantage to being the first one proposed, but as it stands now, there's no cap that says on a particular block you can have X number of sidewalk dining areas. I can tell you that we have had that in the queue are at least 4 more applications beyond this one for some form of sidewalk dining. And that may be the max right there, but we have had discussions relating to other locations, including Martinelli's. And so what we're going to have to do, and as staff's job, is to remind you and report to you, in a particular block face, the 100 block south or whatever, this is how many we have, and this is how much space it's occupying. Right now, nobody has actually built anything yet because of the ongoing construction and disruption, so we don't have anything to actually look at to compare it to. But this is different because it's in a plaza.
Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah, Old Chicago's the only thing that's actually built, isn't it?
But theirs is inside.
They have not
actually.
built
Inside.
their
Doesn't go out
sidewalk
onto the
dining. Theirs
sidewalk.
is inside the footprint of their
Yeah.
own property. And so that, they have a plan, and the plan has been approved, but they haven't actually executed it. And Blue Sky is the other one that has a plan that's gone forward. Those are the only two that have been through a process. And so only the city commission can give them permission to use a public plaza or public sidewalk, but the process envisions you as a design review board looking at the design, the layout, the materials, the size, and making a recommendation to the city commission of what you think should happen in that space.
Well, I'd urge that working group or whoever to think about plaza issues, and for instance, like Campbell Plaza, is it open for sidewalk dining or restaurants when it's an entertainment spot?
Yes.
So, but,
I mean, potentially, and that's going to be a judgment, because that actually came up in our discussions where we have the owner of the Stamp and Coin building there on the north side of Campbell Plaza. If they came forward with an idea to have some plaza dining space along the edge of the plaza, then we're going to have potentially competing uses, and that is the number one reason why we have this 36-person working group, and all is because we only have so much sidewalk, so much plaza space to go around, and different groups have different ideas on how it should be used or programmed or occupied. So if we turn all of our public spaces over to private businesses for different things, then we may not have any public spaces left. So
exactly.
our job will be to provide as much information as we can to this board so you can exercise your thoughts on that. But in this case, it would be appropriate for a motion to be made to postpone consideration of this application to your May 23rd regular meeting.
Thank you, Dean. That being said, is there any other discussion on this? Then I would ask for a motion to,
Yeah, I move we postpone this item until our next meeting.
hey, we have a motion and a second to basically go with option 3 to postpone this item until our next regularly scheduled meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, 5-0. All right. Any other business, John?
We haven't brought any other unfinished business for you today. Under public forum, I don't think we're attended by any of the public. We do want to proceed, and we'll proceed on organizing the bar grill for your next May 23rd meeting, and that will be held.
We were going to report that we had no items for the May 23rd meeting, but now we do, so.
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
Well, I have nothing scheduled for May 23rd, I don't think. And seeing no public here to speak, I guess we're ready to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second it.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.